The Fly, Chapter 10. The Nature of Ether and Sunlight. March 23, 1842. You may have already heard here and there that the lower a region of the earth is, the more compact, the denser is the air in that area. This is quite a natural consequence, for not only the air, but also everything else becomes denser as it radiates closer to the center. The farther away from the center, the more loosely joined are the components of the radiation. We already know what the air surrounding the earth is, partly from present information, but still more from other explanations which have been given about things in the natural world. But to lift from you the burden of a lengthy search, I tell you again that the air, as well as all matter, is nothing but a spiritual material-spiritual conflict. And the deeper these spiritual potencies lie, the angrier they are, and the higher above the planets they keep themselves, the more loving, peaceful, and constant they are. Now that we understand this, it will not be hard for us, at least in a general overview, to recognize the earth with its surrounding atmosphere, and according to its content, cheerfully say, the earth, and as far as its atmosphere reaches, is nothing but a gradation of spirits, having placed themselves on such a planet to begin the familiar return journey. Yes, you will ask, what fills up the wide space between the sun and a planet? The scientists say that it is an exceptionally light and compliant ether. But what would the physicists say if they had to visibly demonstrate what this ether actually is? Really, this would hardly be the $50 question. For one thing, you can't see ether through any microscope, since not even the much denser air can be seen even partially through a microscope. The physicists could analyze the ether chemically if they could get some in their retorts. But since the actual region of the ether begins at a height of 7, 10, 14, and towards the North Pole at a height of 34 miles above the Earth, it would be extremely difficult for the scientists to obtain ether for their research. But we want to travel on a road much more comfortable and certain, namely that of inner faith, trust, and true love. On that road the star Sirius will be visually much closer to the cowboy and the shepherd than is the raindrop which has fallen on the nose of an exceedingly mathematical scientist who is on the dark road of short-sighted research using the human mind. And so we say, the ether, likewise, is a spiritual entity which, to all planets, stands in a positive, but to the suns in a negative relationship. The ether consists of pure, peaceful, and patient spirits. If this were not so, how difficult it would be for the planets to make their long journey around the sun at an extraordinary speed. But because the ether is formed from the most pure, peaceful, and compliant spirits, nothing finds in their existence an obstacle to its motion, be the moving entity or thing ever so small and insignificant. See now, my dear ones, now that we know this, it will no longer be difficult to ascertain the illumination of a sun, and the procreation of its illumination. Yet, before we can do that, we must devote a few minutes to the shining sun, and ask ourselves, how does it look, and what happens there? This is necessary, otherwise you would sooner or later have to ask, How could one explain the effects to someone else if the cause of the effect remains unknown? That the sun is an exceedingly strong illuminating heavenly body needs no explanation, since everyone's eyes attest to that. But how does it become so strongly illuminating? And how does it look on the surface and all the way to the centre? See, this is quite another question. And it must be answered before our return to the main point can be productive. First of all, you must be aware of the sun's enormous size. A sun is often one, yes, even several million times the size of one of its planets. What then is the sun itself? The sun, as an entity, is a planet in a perfected state, and all planets are satellites of this large and perfected planet. But what is the source of such an extraordinary light surrounding such a perfected planet? The light comes from the spiritual love-joy of the spirits surrounding this perfected planet. Are these spirits already totally perfected? This question must be again divided into 7 different points, which will, nevertheless, not be too difficult to thoroughly comprehend, since they are found together in the most beautiful order. These 7 points are 7 different kinds of spirits found in the sun, which jointly determine the great light of the sun. If you want to learn the inner nature of these spirits better, look to the 7 commandments of neighbourly love, and the 3 commandments serving as the foundation of these 7, through which man should recognize his relationship to God, his Father and Creator. Then you have the completed cycle of the spirit formation on a sun. Also, the colours of the rainbow let one recognize this order. But now, what follows these recollections? Nothing else follows but that the sun in its inner sphere is a gathering place for the 7 kinds of spirits. Among them are those first sent to the planets as a trial, and also those who have returned perfected. The first, still to be perfected class, form the sun's inner contents, as the second, already perfected types form the sun's shining envelopment. See, if you were a little more sharp-sighted, the stumbling block would have already been removed. But since you suffer from weak eyes and are also somewhat hard of hearing, I have to add that these spirits are the ones who, through their vibrations of love and joy, cause the actual illumination of the sun. Concerning the propagation of this light, I will draw your attention to those still to be perfected spirits, which must remove themselves from the sun. Now you have the explanation of the light propagation down to a T, which has been discussed in connection with the formation of planet nodules, and herewith you also have the nature of the often mentioned little atomic animals leaving the sun, through which the vibrations of the already perfected spirits are given as a strengthening gift to the imperfect spirits who are leaving the sun on the journey to their perfection.